There were 6 games on. Let's recap them from Monday in the NBA. Jalen Green, Anthony Edwards, Amen Thompson, all going crazy. The Pistons and Cade Cunningham upsetting the New York Knicks. And Michael Bolton just sitting back and watching.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I've done everything that the Bible says, even the stuff that contradicts the other stuff. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, that's the word, lockedondaily.com. Go there, newsletters, favorite team, it's all there. Maybe you want to hear about Jollibee Jalen Green and another big game from him. Well, the Rockets newsletter is there for you to peruse, to devour, to absorb. Just do it all. Also double bang. If you got the energy left, it might be tough, but I'll take it any way you can give it. We are here on National Take a Missionary to Lunch Day. So if you know anyone who works in a missionary position, now it is time for you to give them a treat. Take them out to lunch. We are here to discuss those games on Monday, start of a new week, week 13 across the NBA. So let's take a look, before we get into the actual games themselves, a little bit of news that has gone down, the things that we need to know. And I covered this earlier today, but Kyrie Irving, the back problem, the bulging disc, appears to be okay. He is returning maybe on Tuesday. They got a back-to-back, so he's going to be back soon. So that's good news. And then we get hopefully a little bit more clarity on the Dinwiddie, Grimes, and Marshall scenario. We're very confident that Jaden Hardy is dead to 10 and 12 and 14 team leagues, of course. The double Onyxers have probably already got Jaden Hardy ready for the next go of things that they have, but that's beyond the scope of our show. Jeremy Grant is out again for the Portland Trail Blazers. You're stunned to hear that, I'm sure, but then Denny Avdia popped up also with an ankle sprain. If both Avdia and Grant are out, I'll guess it's Chris Murray. Now, he's bad, but he would be a deeper league guy to have a look at. And then on the Nets, they got a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back, so they just decided, right, we're going to screw you all. They played Portland on Tuesday, and I believed, and I still do believe, that a lot of these guys will sit in a tank game against Portland. But you know what they did? They said, all right, Ben Simmons, questionable. D'Angelo Russell, questionable. Cam Johnson, questionable. And just for fun, we'll chuck another one in there. Nick Claxton, questionable. All right. So I feel good about saying all 4 of those players will play one of the next 2 days. I have no idea which one they're going to play now, but again, I do expect that D'Lo sits Tuesday. I expect Cam Johnson sits Tuesday. I think Simmons plays Tuesday and sits Wednesday. And the Claxton one, I don't know. No idea. Whichever one Claxton sits, old mate Day'Ron Sharpe becomes a useful option. Of course, if it's Wednesday when there are 11 games on, well, it's not as useful. So thank you, Brooklyn, for confusing us in that real must-lose situation, a game against Portland. Because now we don't know what to do. Because as soon as you mark them questionable, I've got to look at a 50% chance of playing. Even though I think Cam and D'Lo are less than 50% chance of actually getting out there and cracking in. Let's take a look at the waiver wire. What are the trends? Who's been added? Who's been dropped across old fantasy basketball waiver wires? The 6 most added players. Number 1 is Lonzo Ball. And the Bulls said, I would assume he was going to be out Tuesday. And he probably plays Wednesday. So guess what they did? They labeled him questionable for Tuesday. Now they have been a high-key, shocking team at injury reports. This Ayo Dosunmu thing, do you remember they said, he'll be reevaluated in 10 days, and then 2 days later they said he's doubtful? Of course, he hasn't played since, which is 2 weeks ago, so sick. Thank you for the accuracy. So I'm just going to go by the words versus whoever's typing in the injury report. So I don't think that Dosunmu is playing Tuesday. He probably plays Wednesday, but I've got to tell you what actually happens. Kobe White also is questionable, so I don't know there, but Lonzo has a chance for another decent game. I talked about this on the previous show, but I'll do it now. Bigger audience on this show. Talking about Lonzo, because there was a tweet from Shams Charania talking about LeVar Ball and the success the Ball brothers have had with LiAngelo signing this record deal. LaMelo leading All-Star votes. Check, correct. LiAngelo Ball getting this $10 million, whatever it is, record deal. Unbelievable, correct, well done. The next part of the tweet said, Lonzo Ball has reclaimed his starting job after 2 years out injury. Wrong. He did start a game, but that headline, and maybe it is true, maybe that Shams knows, maybe they have been told that Lonzo is now our starting point guard moving forward, and one of Kobe White, Josh Giddey is coming off the bench. Seems really unlikely, yeah? Seems not like it's what's going to happen. But that tweet suggests that Lonzo is a permanent starter. I don't think there is any way that that is true. So just be cautious of this. Yes? Don Klingon, the second most added player. On the Portland side, DeAndre Ayton, the snowman, missed the last game with calf soreness, not on the injury report. So he's going to play, most likely. Now, is he a 31-minute guy, Ayton, or is he playing 26? Because it is eminently possible that Klingon plays 14 minutes in this game. So I get adding him. I understand getting out in front of it. My point all the way through this with Klingon has been this absence of Ayton or even the limited minutes in one of those games did not indicate that it was a permanent changing of the guard. Cool. Tim Hardaway. You know, like, if it's a stream, I get it. But we know. We know who Tim is, don't we? I won't spoil it. We'll talk about it in the recap, but he's Tim Hardaway. Peyton Watson, the fourth most added player with Aaron Gordon minutes limited. Watson is fine to stream in for defensive stats. That's about it. Budrick Hield had another big minutes game. Guess what? He was pretty bad outside of some other weird stuff that he doesn't normally do. And long term, there is no value in this one. And then the last one is Ben Simmons. And I hope he plays. If he plays Tuesday, there's real value there. If he doesn't play Tuesday and then plays Wednesday and everyone else is available, not so much. But that's okay. The move there is totally reasonable to have gone that way. The most dropped player is Yusuf Nurkic of the Phoenix Suns. He's not playing. He's out of the rotation when he's healthy, so don't worry about that. Easy drop. Wendell Carter, yep, we don't need to hold him. 20-minute legend Keon Ellis. It's stashable only. If you need a roster spot, if you need production, if you need top 150 numbers right now out of that roster spot, you can't hold him. He will get numbers at some point, but in 20 minutes, you can't get enough. Scoot Henderson dropped, easy. Duncan Robinson dropped, easy. Noah Clowney, the sixth most dropped player. Yeah, like one of the worst games you'll ever see. I detailed this in one of the earlier shows today, the preview show, talking about Clowney and where are the defensive stats? Why doesn't he block shots anymore? And I thought it was an interesting deep dive that I was able to do by looking at the fact that he's actually contesting more shots this season. So his per 100 block rate at Alabama was 2.1. His per 100 block rate last season was 2.1. This season, it's like 0.8. That's ridiculous, right? That's so low. He's contesting more shots this season than last season. He just can't block any of them. So the fact that he's putting himself in position gives me faith that at some point they'll come. Again, this team remains a complete mystery and an enigma and a riddle and all that stuff because I don't know who's going to play every night. But Clowney is the prospect. They don't have much, but he is the prospect that they have. So I think he's going to find a way to get minutes. I would have tried to hold, but also I get why you won't. I get it. And I think, did I drop him? I think I might have in one spot. I don't know. But it's, you know, if you drop him, I'm not sure you're losing a huge amount, to be honest. That was an interesting, I thought, intro to the show with a lot of pertinent facts and information, maybe. I hope so. We'll get back and we're going to recap the 6 games. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Wayfair. Yeah, the holidays are over. Christmas is over. New Year is over. So you might look at your office. You might look at your desk. You might look at your house. Like, bloody hell. I need to refresh this stuff. I need a better look. I need something new. I need to give a bit of TLC. I need to tidy. I need to clear. I need to declutter. I just want to make it look new. I want to rebrand my house. Is that what people, that's not what people say, is it? We don't rebrand our house with furniture. Maybe we do. Maybe that's a new thing we do. Iconic rebrand of the lounge room. But whatever it is, Wayfair's the place that you go. You know what they've got? Free delivery. You know what they've also got? Hassle-free delivery. Who wouldn't want that? Such a good way to be able to get the items that you want on any style and any budget from Wayfair. It makes it so easy at Wayfair to tackle your New Year's home goals. Endless inspiration for every single space. So give your home the iconic rebrand that it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That is Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Okay, that will bring us into games. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Washington Wizards first game up. The Wolves went with an unchanged lineup in this game. They do get the victory. Not a big blowout by any means, 120-106, and Anthony Edwards was able to uncork one. 41, 6 and 7, 3 steals, 1 block, big shooting, big volume, big free throws, love it. Everything great about that from Edwards, who has been, again, somewhat disappointing. But in saying all of that, he's still the 11th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. That's good. And prior to that, he had struggled. So this was good, back on track. The Naz Reid game, I don't really know what to tell you. And this is why, because 12 and 5 with 3 threes and 3 steals and a block is bloody good. That's a great return in a category league especially. Points leagues, he's very borderline. He's like averaging 25 fantasy points. That's not that good. The problem I have with that from a category league perspective for Naz is he had a usage of under 12%. He played 24 minutes. They're not good numbers. They're not numbers I want to hang anything on. So while he got it, he got the value, he got us there with steals and blocks, holding, but yeah, it's been a frustrating ride. Gobert had 11 and 11 while Randall had 20 and 10 with terrible free throws. And speaking of terrible, Donte DiVincenzo's field goal percentage. But I do ask politely, don't drop him based on this. Yeah, he shot 27% on 15 attempts. He didn't have a single assist. And if you've been with me the whole journey, you know that I'm not a big DiVincenzo guy. I think some of the rhetoric / propaganda / just people saying words about Donte DiVincenzo were on the glazed side of neutral. I didn't think he was that good. But I'm not going to drop the starting point guard who played 29 minutes. He had 13 and 3 with 3 dribbles because he shot 27%. It's bad. There's no doubt it's bad. But he remains an absolute must roster. And you know what? There might not be a single person watching or listening to this who's like, I'd never even considered it, Josh. What do you want about? And that's great. That's great. McDaniels, 8 and 8 in 30 minutes. Yeah, you know. Not literally nothing is changing. Nothing changes. He is not a must roster guy. He's a stream guy when they play, when it's schedule plus, whatever. But you don't have to have him. And I don't ever see that changing at any point in the near future, to be honest. The next side of this game, or the other side of this game, maybe that's a better way of phrasing it, was the Washington Wizards. They also went in with an unchanged lineup. Still no Malcolm Brogdon, of course not. And what we actually got in this game is big minutes, because Jordan Poole had played like 24 minutes each of the last 2, and he played 33 here. 20 and 7, 4 threes, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Love it. Didn't take a free throw and shot poorly, but that's okay. We are moving into if I can get top 50 for Jordan Poole back in a trade, I absolutely do it. He didn't get shut down towards the end of last season. It might happen this season. He might have some slumps. All of this is true. Now is the time I'd be looking. He's had 3 months of pretty consistent numbers. He's a top 50 player this season easily. I'd be looking to see if I could do something with it. You might not be able to though. Also, we got the Kyle Kuzma that we love. We also got the Kyle Kuzma that we hate. All wrapped up in a neat little package. Because he'd been just absent, no shots, low minutes, never touching it. In this game, he touched it all right. 21 shots for Kuz. He had 22 points. He had 3 threes. He had 5 assists. He also somehow chucked in 3 steals. And of course, he went 1 of 4 from the line and 43% on 21 attempts, which kills both your percentages. So thanks, big fella, for the good and the bad. Love to have you. I don't know, what do I prefer? The one where I can just very easily say, don't roster this bum, or the one where I go, that's good and that's bad? Because I don't know what's better. Bilal Coulibaly was also slightly better, 15 points, 2 threes, 35 minutes. But what we did get is, again, another piece of evidence, is that you do not need to roster Bub Carrington. Carlton had 8 points in 34 minutes. He had 2 threes. He had 2 assists. He shot 22%. It is an ongoing thing with Carrington. We're probably going to need 2 to 3 guys out. And even then, I think he might be 130th. There's not enough happening here for him at the moment to be useful. And the same goes for the two-way guys. Champagny played 10 minutes. Passion Pop went scoreless. Jared Butler played 7 minutes and had 7 points. At some point, we will get to use these players. That point is not now, so John Armstrong,
get that garbage out of here.
Yeah, no need to hold them. Valanciunas did his thing, 8, 8, and 4. Very low upside, though. And Sarr had 13, 3, and 5, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 threes. If only Alex Sarr could shoot, which I feel is going to be something I'm saying for so many years, man. But everything else is incredibly enticing. Let's do the second game. Yeah, we should. It is the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks. And the Pistons, off the back of an absolutely incredible second half from Cade Cunningham, beat the Knicks. 124-119 was your final score. We'll start with Detroit. Cade with a casual 34, 2 and 4. 36, 2 and 4, with 4 triples, 52% on 27 attempts. He has exceeded any of my expectations. One of the big things that I talked about last season with Cade, the beginning of last season, I said, all he needs is like small 5 to 6% increases in categories, and he's a first-round player. Now, it didn't happen last season, but this is exactly what I've seen in Cade all the way through. He just needed those few little things to tweak, and look where we're at. He is dominating at the moment. He is putting up unbelievable numbers. This Pistons team's actually pretty good, and it's him, really. Like he's him, it's him. First-round player this season. Asar Thompson played 26 minutes, 11 and 7, 2 steals. That's a pretty good game. Remember this, though. Well, not you have to remember because I'm going to literally tell you right now. The Pistons went on this insane run to begin the third quarter. He was starting, so he was able to play those extra minutes because in the previous games, he just hadn't played very much in the second half. So they kept him in, and that is why Malik Beasley played only 18 minutes. Because you look at the numbers, you go, what on earth happened? Beasley had 22 points in 18 minutes. He had 6 threes. He shot 54%. He was a ridiculous, he was plus 10 with a 35 usage, Malik. But they just didn't use him because the team and the unit was rolling with Hardaway and Asar in there. So that's great. Asar got the minutes. Is 26 what he tops out at? That's a little bit of my worry. I think he's okay to have, but I also don't think that it's a must. I'm also very confident that Tim Hardaway isn't. He played 35 minutes. He got extra run as well because part of those groups that were putting up some big numbers against the Knicks. He had 10 points, though, on 33% with no defensive stats and only 3 assists. He is a threes streamer, and that's it. Don't get too... Jalen Green playing well. Playing much better. And you look at this and go, Josh, you said he was improving. And it's, yes, but this game will tell you the opposite. He had 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes of this game. So he only played 20 minutes. He had 10 and 8 in that time with 100% shooting from the field and the line. So even though it could have been a complete disaster, he actually salvaged it. And he is starting to look much better. But with him limited, that meant that the Flaming Galah, Isaiah Stewart, was able to step into more roles or more minutes. 28 minutes, 7 and 4, 2 blocks. Stewart has had a bit of a resurgence because, I don't know, I'm not sure if you know, but this idiot franchise decided to turn him into a power forward for the last 2 years and make all their priority moves around him, which, of course, what an unbelievable decision to do that around a backup center. But they did that, and now he's back to his regular position. He's actually playing impactful basketball. This is his role. He's a streamer for blocks for fantasy. Toby Harris. Toby. 10 points on 12 shots stinks, but he had 8 rebounds. He had 3 steals, so I guess that helps somewhat. And the fact that he played 36 minutes is enough to soothe your weary head. Marcus Sasser had 7 points in 16 minutes, and I'm not really sure why I even mentioned Marcus Sasser right at that point. The other side of the equation is the Knicks, and it is the Karl Anthony Towns. They played 48 minutes in a game because that's how long a basketball game goes. Towns played 43 of them with a bung knee. He also wrecked his thumb. And after the game, he was giving cryptic answers when talking about, do you need x-rays? Oh, it is what it is. Okay. I'm not really sure what that means. So his thumb is a bit busted. Just keep an eye on that. I wouldn't necessarily go and rush to add pressure to chew or anything like that. But 43 minutes again is insane. 26 and 12 with 4 threes for Townsy. Brunson had 31, 4 and 11 on 50% shooting, so that's excellent. And Mikal Bridges, it looks great, this line. It looks fantastic. Because, again, our eyes are often just drawn to the scoring. 27 points, 6 threes, unbelievable. And we all love a 69, which is what he shot from the field. 69% for Mikal Bridges. But, what else is going on here? 1 rebound, 1 assist, no steals. A very empty line, and he had been really quite bad in the games leading up to this. So this is good. We don't hate a game like this. We'll always take a game like this over, a bad one. But it's a little lipstick on a pig. Not that he's a pig, but his recent performances have been piggish. They've been porcine. What about OG Anunoby? And this is just an absolutely gigantic slump. Now, if you are in a category league, please do not drop him. Do not consider dropping him. It has been very bad in January. He has 10 points in this game. He shot the ball well. He just never shot it. 10, 3, and 1. No threes. If you're in a points league and a shallow one at that, you might start to consider moving on. I wouldn't, but you might consider it. But this is a slump from OG. And we worried somewhat about where do all the shots come from. And we've seen it. Bridges some days, Anunoby some days. We're in a Bridges phase at the moment. It's a Bridges phase. When will that switch back? I'm not sure. Is it a waxing Bridges phase? Is it a waning Bridges phase? Shout out to all you astrological legends out there. Lunar legends. Is that what we want to say? Maybe. Do I know anything about it? No. I just think that waxing and waning are funny terms for moons. What else about this game? I think that's probably most of it. Josh Hart was fine, 12, 14, and 5. Absolutely nothing super spectacular there. And that's probably about it, I would say. We'll come back. Of course we will. I'm not going anywhere unless something weird happens. And talk about the other games. But before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. You are out there wanting to go to live events. Why wouldn't you? You love them. You love a live event. You love seeing it. You love seeing the athletes sweat. You love seeing the performers perform. You love seeing the comedians rattle off a few jokes. Whatever it is, it's in live events. But the annoying part of it is getting the tickets. And Game Time recognizes this, and that's why they brought out Game Time Picks, because it wants to cut the fluff. And if you want to cut the fluff along with Game Time, well, you can work as a synergistic pair and cut that fluff out and find the best value deals for the tickets for the events that you want to go to. Also on the app, you got the all-in pricing, so you're never going to get surprised with a fee at checkout. You're not going to get there with your tickets that cost $50, and they say, oh, that'll be $57.99. You go, excuse me, because they tell you what the price is right up front. No shocks, no surprises, no disappointed little Johnny because they slapped an extra fee on his ticket and now you can't take him to see his favorite comedian. Not happening with Game Time, not happening. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It's also time for me to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by Hungry Root. We all know that we can get hungry. That's just part of what we do as humans. We get hungry, we need food, but sometimes the time doesn't allow us to create and craft and deliver and devour a healthy and delicious meal, but Hungry Root can. It is like somebody who helps you get the groceries done. It provides you recipes, because it's not like that, because it's literally what it does. Hungry Root gets the healthy stuff delivered to your door with recommended meals, different types of diets as well, a high protein or an anti-inflammatory or a gluten-free, does all of that. And the meals that they suggest can be ready in 15 minutes or less. And you're going to love Hungry Root. You're going to love it. I'm telling you. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA. That is hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item for your choice. A free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. What's better than the root? Hungry Root. Just ad-libbing some catchphrases for some of these companies. I'm sure they'll love it. Next game. We're going, unfortunately, up to Toronto, where the Golden State Warriors in the Patrick McCaw Bowl took on the Toronto Raptors, and our Raptors, they did it. They got the win. The Warriors changed their lineup a little bit. Steph Curry returned, and that meant that the Hall Pass legend Lindy Waters III moved to the bench, and Andy Wiggins returned as well, and Kyle Anderson went to the bench. There was still no Draymond Green for Golden State, and that is obviously a big impact thing because, they struggled quite a lot without him out on the court. Let's start with the Warriors. Curry had 26, 7, and 7, shot very well. Very good game. Strong game. Awesome game. Everyone else, not doing a whole amount. Andy Wiggins was pretty solid, 20 points with 4 threes, but some rough percentages. But that is basically the Wiggins experience at this point. I do believe he should be on rosters, so if he's available, just check it out, see what's going on. I don't think the same way about Bud Hield, you'll be shocked to know. Hield, who's played 30-plus minutes for 3 straight games, had 8 points in this game. The line looks fine for fantasy because he chimed in with 4 steals and 1 block. But, put your hand up if you hear rostering Buddy Hield because of his ability as a ball thief. No hands up? Cool. So I don't care that he got him. That's great. But it's lipstick pigging. Pig lipsticking. Is that a phrase? Can we do that? Can I turn it into a verb? Probably not. But if he doesn't get the steals, which he doesn't, it's piss poor again. He shot 23%, and it's very obvious, I believe, that Draymond will come back, he will start, Buddy will go to the bench. Then Podziemski will come back, and Buddy will drop again. So I don't think you need to roster him. You can stream Bud for 3s, cool, do it. But everything else, not worth the hassle. Looney played 18 minutes. Kyle Anderson played 18 minutes. Anderson is doing enough in the deeper formats to have a look at him, while Dennis Schroeder, speaking of doing enough, Not him. 24 minutes for Den. He had 12, 3, and 4. He had a steal. He shot poorly. He is bad. Dennis Schroeder needs to be on a bad team, and you need to use him for the first 2 months of the season. Well, at least that's been the pattern 2 years in a row. He sucks. We know what to do. Dennis Schroeder.
Get that garbage out of here.
Yeah. Trace Jackson-Davis hurt his hand. He returned to action. Maybe he shouldn't have because he only had 3 points. But he had 6 rebounds. He shot horrid. 1 of 4 from both the field and the line. That doesn't get much worse than that. I am holding Jackson-Davis, but you know what also I'm not doing? Is that having any faith that it's going to be a long-term thing. Because it's Steve Kerr, man. Anything can happen with him. And by anything, I mean he'll just change his mind. That'll happen 50 more times in the foreseeable future. Let's talk about our favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. And I'm going to start with some tough love. I'm going to start with, what is it, the rod and the stick? I'm going to start with the stick. Because Emmanuel Quickley was out. I don't care that he was out. That's whatever. All right? I'm not going to sit here and call him soft. Not my business. I don't think that he's soft. He's hurt. Hip soreness. Whatever. All good. I'm going to have a crack at Darko, to be honest. Because I know you won the game. Good for you. But why is Davion Mitchell an evidence-based, can't say that word, an evidence-based below-average player who you've decided is not good enough to even sniff the court? Why is he now a 27-minute-a-night starter? Why? Guess how it worked out. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 steals. He did have 6 assists. What is the point of this? You know who you determined was the guy who's your backup point guard? Jamal Shed. Maybe you could have given him a go. Or Jacoby Walter. Or O'Shea Abaji and put Scott Barnes at point guard. You still won the game. And so that's nothing to do, like, you can say, well, Josh, how can you criticize? I can, because it's about the decision making. If Davion Mitchell is not good enough to be one of your best 11 players, why is he good enough to be one of your best 5? When there's literally another player that is the same player, Jamal Shed, but better, that you could play. It will never make sense to me. It also never works out for the coaches. Why do they think it's a good idea? It never works. Barnesy, 40 minutes, 23, 8, and 6, 2 steals and a block. Horrific RJ percentages, but good Barnes production. Speaking of RJ, he also had RJ percentages. 49, sorry, 40, I wish it was 49. 43 from the field, 67 from the line, 14, 4, and 5. But you hold him, I think, pretty obviously. Pirtle had 13 and 13. That's pretty strong. Well, the Dick Man. That's Grady, by the way. Anyone else, if they're called the Dick Man, that's their own business. But Grady had 12 points in 23 minutes with 2 threes. He did nothing else. It has been the obvious drop for weeks. We could have foreseen this coming without even big glasses. It was the easiest thing to see in the world. You don't roster Grady Dick. In fact, you can jack him off.
Get that garbage out of here.
There's no reason to hold Dick in 10. Well, there is, but not in 10-team leagues or 12-team leagues, or honestly, not sure in 14-team leagues. There's just not enough to do. So he was out. Gary Trent III, Jacoby Walter, didn't play a single second. DMP'd. John Mobo, DMP'd. Bruce Brown played 14 minutes for 0 points, and O'Shea Abaji played 25 minutes. He had 12 points. He had 2 blocks. I don't care. I don't think we add in 10 or 12 or 14-team leagues, but he'd been out for the last 2 games. They said actually last game he was healthy, but a DMP CD. Not sure I buy that, but that's what they said. He was back in this one, but we don't use him in any spot. But I've skipped over it because you want the ultimate evidence, the ultimate evidence-based fact of revenge games. Chris Boucher. Warriors legend Chris Boucher had 18, 7, and 2. He hit 3 threes. He played 22 minutes. He went crazy. The thing with Boucher is that he's Chris Boucher, but also, how do you trust it? You can't. Bro's been in the NBA for 8 years or whatever, and we've seen it time and time again. That's great to get 22 minutes out of Boucher. Lovely for him. And he actually did nothing up until the 4th quarter. So if you streamed him in to get a little bit of a points boost, you were cursing, and then you loved it by the time you got to the 4th quarter. So this is great. It's been a strong run of stuff from him. He's almost a top 100 player of his last 5 games in only 15 minutes. But I can't foresee a way that this works out as a long-term ad. You can just keep rolling it out there as things happen, see what happens, see what you get. Maybe it works, but long-term, it's not going to. But if you want to do it in the short term, that's all okay. And that is basically the idea behind so much that we do in fantasy. We coined the term, get out ahead of it. Is it a real term to coin because no one's ever said that before? No, of course. People have always said it. But when I'm talking about value of guys, I'm talking about, will this last long term? Probably not. But if you always want to get ahead of it, you get ahead of it. You don't always need to see 4 games of something when there's a path for it to happen to wait until it's turned into something good. You can get ahead of it. But there are situations like this where it's just, I'll stream while he's hot. I'll stream while he's hot. I know there's a turd coming, but I'll stream while it's hot. And that's where we're at with Boucher. There is no world in which there is a big role coming up for him. It's not there. But he's doing really well. And that is unbelievable that in the year 2025, before GTA 6 is released, that we had a 5-minute segment on Chris Boucher. What on earth is going on? Shall we do the next game? Well, that would be probably the best thing to do, I would say, at this point. Let's go on to it. The fourth one, Memphis, Houston in Houston. The Grizzlies were able to roll the same starting lineup out there, and Ja Morant, who'd been playing 29 minutes or 28 minutes, and he was ill before this game, Taylor Jenkins said, right, none of that anymore, 37 minutes. So if you predicted that, good for you. Shout out to Gray's Almanac. 29 minutes for Ja Morant, 4 assists, 4 steals, insane volume, shit percentages. It has been a very, very weird season for Morant. A million injuries, bad production. He's not a top 50 category league guy this season. He's not even a top 40 points league guy. And that's usually where he can hang his hat, as a top 20, top 15 points league guy. Really disappointing, but there's a big volume game. And then Desi Bane. Absolutely nothing to see in the first half. In the second half, cooked it again. 25 with 4 threes and 2 assists and 2 steals on 69%. Really putting together a strong run, Des. Jake LaRavia also got hot. He had 12 with 2 steals. Very hard to rely upon him in those minutes. And that meant with Morant back, that Pippen played 11 minutes. And the talk on Pippen is the same as it always is. If you have stash ability and you want to wait for a Morant injury, go ahead. But in the vast majority of leagues, which are daily changes, you cannot do it. You can't hold him. It's going to cost you. You will lose if you do it. So don't.
Get that garbage out of here.
2 of the things I wanted to check was, what do we do with Zuck? What do we do with Zach Edey? What do we do with Santi Aldama? Well, I think John Armstrong probably needs to be called.
Get that garbage out of here.
Aldama had 5 points in 18 minutes with 2 steals. Edey had 2 points in 24 minutes. Could they be better? Could they show some of the stuff they did earlier on? Sure. Especially Aldama, were they playing well above their heads? Almost certainly yes. So again, if you are in a situation and you wanted to drop them because you need to open up a space or you need to grab whatever you need to do, I don't think that it's going to bite in the ass. You're talking about a 23-minute reserve big man in Aldama. You're talking about a 23-minute a night starting center. I don't think it matters. I don't think you need to hold. They will, like every player, have stretches where it looks really good and then it pulls back down. And you absolutely don't have to drop them. But I'm not looking at them as like, gotta hold him. Jaren had 17, 2 and 3, 3 steals and a block, which is for him is actually a down game. But overall, he's been awesome, as we all are well aware. The Rockets, they had the same starting group out there. Let's start with Jollibee Jalen, who played 40 minutes. He had 42 points. He had 5 threes. He had 4 assists. He had a steal. I know it because I see it. I see it all the time, right? That as soon as this happens, and he is one of a very specific group of players, and I don't really know what the reason is. I don't really know how you get yourself into that group. But when he does this, it's like, oh, he's figured it out. It's happening. Should it sustain? And no matter how many times you think that, or how many times you say that, we get the evidence that it hasn't been figured out. I started saying this something about Green I'll say 2 weeks ago, right? Talking about how, yes, he's never been able to maintain and he has these horrendous streaks, but this season, the hot streaks, instead of being 4 months apart, they're 3 weeks apart or 4 weeks apart. And it's narrowed in, which is a huge sign of improvement. But what he is doing, where he's a top 20 player over the last 2 weeks, is no shot. It's not happening. And I'll read off some numbers. He's shooting 46% on threes on 9 attempts a game. Not happening. Not going to shoot that number rest of season. Usage at 29%, definitely possible. Got no problem with suggesting that he could do that. He might be able to maintain that level. Could he continue shooting? What's he shooting on his twos? 56%? I guess so. He's never been above 50, including this season. So maybe not. He's also doubled his block rate. Is that realistic? Probably not. He's playing 36 minutes a night. Is that realistic? Maybe. Maybe. But it is a absolutely massive, you know what else is massive? Low taper fade. It's also a massive sell high opportunity for Jalen Green. And I would suggest you look into doing it. I would suggest just seeing how possible it is. Because the shooting, the minutes, the blocks, even the steals are rolling at career best levels. And he is a guy that gets a groundswell of hype behind him very, very easily, very quickly. Men Thompson, poor man, Jesus, he's going to be good. 19-13, 4 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks, bad free throws. Who cares? Must roster guy. We'll see what happens when Jabari returns. Don't really even care when Tari returns. He's good. He's really good, man. And Şengün had 17, 8, and 5, 3 steals and a block. I will probably do this in the off-season just for fun and to keep content on the channel. But I'll probably do a 2023 NBA redraft. And I am, at this early stage, without even thinking about it whatsoever, I'd probably have a man at number 2 without really any sort of concerns about that. Pretty easily, I think. Who else would be there? No, it has to be him, surely. Unless I'm missing someone. That's got to be him. Whitmore scored well, but you can guess what else he did? Yep, that's right, nothing. 16, 1-1. He did have a steal. He played 21 minutes, much like Boucher. This is what he is, young Boucher. Maybe they should make a TV show about it. You can look at that and go, oh, well, I need some points, and he did it in low minutes. That might work out. It might, it's true. But also, it is worth remembering that 16 points is below average for a fantasy league. That's a below average contribution in the points category. So while it looks like a big number, because it's bigger than 2, it's bigger than 1, which is, 1 block, pretty good. 16 points, below average. 1 block, above average. 16 points, below average. So it looks good. But it actually, if you are an average team in scoring, it brings your scoring down. And he's not in line, Cam Whitmore, to get 30 minutes a night at any point coming up. Not a good night from Van Vliet. Speaking of below average, 9 points. But he did have 9 assists. He did have a steal. He did have a block. He did have 2 threes. So he'd been putting together some better games. This was not one of them. But it's not an absolute disaster. While Brooksy had 9 points with 4 steals, he shot horribly. Revenge game? If I want to talk about the revenge game Boucher stuff, which of course was a joke, but this is real, right? This is real. Part of the reason I push back on revenge games so much is because no one ever talks about the ones that don't happen. Dylan Brooks, former team, 9 points, 27%. Sick. Thanks, Brooksy. Not much else going on there. I think that probably wraps it up. All right, let's do the final 2 games of the day. The Clippers handle the Heat pretty easily. Bam Adebayo was out of this game, but no. Of course. Why would we use the player that we've been playing all along as the backup, the guy that took the other guy out of the rotation, the guy that's not 55 years old? Why would we do that? We've got the opportunity to start Kevin Love, a guy who's not really a center. It's a great idea. So Kevin Love started for Bam Adebayo, not Superman, not Khalil Ware. It didn't matter hugely in terms of the overall production because Ware played 33 minutes like a starter. But why do coaches do this? 33 minutes for Ware. 19, 13, 3 threes, 1 steal, 1 block. 64% shooting. Fantastic. The potential is sky high. Everyone is going to rush to add him here. I get it. I have no idea about Bam Adebayo's back, how long he's going to be out. This injury sort of came out of nowhere. Lower back contusion. Is it a Mark Williams lower back contusion? Probably not. But if you want to make the ad, do it. We don't know how long Bam will be out and Ware will be an excellent ad if Bam misses. That has been the story all along. But I just don't know. Hero, 32, 11, and 7. Very strong. Jaime Jaquez, very mid. 10, 2, and 5 in 33 minutes. These are the games that he was putting up all the way through when Butler was out, outside of the first 3 games after Butler's piss party. So, yeah, we know what he is. He's fine. And he's inconsistent. So is Nikola Jovic. Little Chungus was starting to look solid. And he had 5 points in 28 minutes with a steal and a block and shot 10%. Now, I'm not going to worry that much about it because 10% is not a number that will happen all the time. Well, let's do the thing. Let's make it 40%. Let's give him 3 extra shots made. Let's make one of them a 3. That's 7 points. That makes him 12, 6, and 3, triple 1. Oh, sorry, not even triple 1. 12, 6, and 3, steal, block, 2 triples. Love that. If you added Jovic, don't be discouraged by this game. Do be discouraged if you like Terry Rozier because I think he's done, man. He's bad now. 11 points for him. And Haywood Highsmith had 3 steals. He played 36 minutes. So therefore, he'll probably play 20 in the next one. We know the pattern with Hayward Highsmith. Let's go on to the Clippers side of this game. Kawhi returned. They hadn't played in a few days. Kawhi's getting all of his minutes done in the first 3 quarters. He played 21 minutes here. He had 6 points. He shot 33%. He had 2 steals. It is going to take a long time to get him to the level that you want him to be at. That's really frustrating, clearly. Chris, they got a back-to-back as well, so he's going to miss one of the next 2 games. Chris Dunn played 26 minutes. He had 8 assists and a steal, and like Jovic, he shot 10%. We know what Dunn is. He's a steals stream guy with some assists. It's only desperation stuff. While Storman, Norman Powell, man, what a great game. 36 minutes, 29 points. He added 3 steals. Massive sell high. Because I know what you're going to tell me. Josh, you told me he was going to be bad when Kawhi returned. No, I said he was going to drop off. And pair that with a reduction in usage and a drop in shooting percentages. But you know what he did? He shot the ball excellently. You know what he won't do? Be a 71% shooter. This is where you have that opportunity. You don't have to. You can just enjoy what power brings. And you can. It's really, really good. It's the laws of like common sense and averages that he won't shoot 70%. He won't shoot 60%. He won't shoot 55%. And then when Kawhi gets up, the usage will drop and it'll all adjust. But it's a perfect example to move on. Jim Harden's assists have been drying up, but they didn't here, so that's great. 26, 5, and 11, while Zubac's dropped a casual 21 and 20 game. Not much else to talk about, I don't think, here. We had Mo Bamba. I think he played 8 minutes all in the first half with his absolutely perfect knees, the best knees you'll ever see. Unbelievable. I wish I had those knees. They're actually the knees they use to model the gold standard knees on in the world gold standard museum. It's Mo Bamba's knees. That's all I've heard. He only played 8 minutes in this game. He had 5 and 7, but then didn't play in the second half either, which was, I guess a little strange, but that's okay. Whatever. All right, final game of the day. I'm in a bit of a time crunch here, so we'll get through this one as quickly as I possibly can. Spurs and Lakers. Very easy victory in the end for the Spurs. 126-102 the final score. Wemby, 23, 8 and 5, 3 steals, 2 blocks, elite field goals, bad free throws. Ridiculously good. There was no Sohan in this game again, so Steph Castle started. He had 23 points. That's great. He shot really well, and his volume of shots was huge. 16 shots, 63%. The 2 steals is nice as well. Actually, don't care. I'm not interested in grabbing him. Even if he stays in this role and Sohan returns, he won't shoot this well. He doesn't do enough in other areas, and we've seen him play 30 minutes a night and not be a top 200 guy. It's a very good game. He scored very well, but it doesn't mean that I need to grab him in fantasy. Devin Vassell had 23, 6 and 4 with 5 threes. Chris Paul did his thing, 10 assists and 3 steals. And the horse, Keldon Johnson, didn't do much. He's still incredibly over-rostered. 10 points in 21 minutes for Johnson with 2 blocks, and the 2 blocks is it's a surprise to be sure, but maybe you welcome one? I don't know. What about the pencil Harrison Barnes? Barnesy. One of his better games. 17 points for Barnes in 32 minutes. I don't think we need to look too much into that. It's your stream guy when you get desperate, and we're definitely off the Julian Champagnie train. 2 points in 17 minutes for Bubbles. On the Lakers side of things, they were basically all available, apart from the bigs that haven't played all season. Davis had 30 and 13 with a Richie Beno, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 assists and 2 threes. LeBron had 18, 5 and 8 with a steal and a block. And not a lot else. We got Rui Hachimura's minutes bumped back up for some reason. He had 9 points in 30 minutes and remains over 50% rostered in 12-team leagues, which is insane.
Get that garbage out of here!
Austin Reeves couldn't get anything to fall, 29% shooting. He had 12, 5 and 8. The 8 assists is the part we love. Dalton Connect, still over-rostered, 5 points in 14 minutes. Max Christie, I think over-rostered. He is fine as a streamer, but 10, 1 and 1 in 31 minutes. If LeBron or Davis don't play, I'm much more into Christie, but there's not enough consistently to have him as a guy you want to hold on to through everything. He's fine if you want him, if you want to stream him, but not a guy that you should be considering Cormac Christie as an absolute lock part of your 12-team roster. Not much else going on in that game, I don't think. And yeah, I saw what Lakers report, I think it was Ryan Ward, said, man, the Lakers love playing down to their opponent. I think the Spurs are just better. Maybe that's possible too. I reckon that's a real distinct possibility. Let's bang through some lines of the night and I'll get out of here. Your monstrous line of the night, we are going to go to Anthony Edwards. 41 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals. Your waiver wire line of the night is Superman. It's Khalil Ware. He cooked without Bam Adebayo. And amazingly, the waiver wire line of the night and the young gun of the night, not the same person, but had the same points and rebounds. Ware had 19 and 13 with a block. And your young gun, non-Wemby division, because Wemby played, not going to use him. It's Amen Thompson, who also had 19 points and 13 rebounds. He just added in 5 blocks. And your dud of the night, the worst performer who is heavily rostered, it is Trace Jackson-Davis. 3, 6, and 3 with a cool pair of 25% across field goal percentage and free throw percentage. An absolute stinker of a game for Jackson-Davis in that regard. And that's the end of the show. We are here after Monday's games on Take a Missionary to Lunch Day. Celebrate it as you choose. And hit the subscribe, hit the thumb. But hit your own subscribe, hit your own thumb, which is corny as shit, I know. But don't worry. We just want to make sure we're just doing little things better. Positive outlooks on ourselves, positive outlooks on others. Guys, we are done here, unless it's Rui Hachimura. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.